Lately, I've been getting a lot of different approaches to the game with people coming into my Twitch channel and asking, well, how do I get better at this game? What do you recommend? And a lot of this has been happening because of the free-to-play update. There's been a big influx of new players that have been asking more and more questions that, for many of us that feel there's a very obvious answer, but to the general public that is playing this game for the very first time, Rocket League can actually be extremely overwhelming. It's in a genre they've never played before, and there's a lot of nuances to it that don't really come naturally for first-time players. So with that said, this video is going to be the top 5 tips when starting Rocket League. If you guys have other ideas of suggestions that you think may help out beginner players, make sure you guys leave those in the comments down below. At number 1 is going to be play and then play more. Rocket League is not a game that translates from other games. It is not an FPS in a genre that we've been playing for multiple decades. It is not a sports simulator that you're used to. It is not going to translate from other games unless you happen to play the predecessor, Start BC or Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars on the PlayStation 3. This is a game where it is going to take a lot of time and effort to learn the mechanics of the game. This is not something that is going to come naturally. It is not going to translate from the other games you have played. Whether it be a racing game or not, this is an entirely different experience. It's a physics-based game where you have to control every minute little detail. Because of that, you need to build that muscle memory. You need to understand how the ball is going to bounce off the wall and how to read that. You need to understand that how hard do I hit the ball? How soft do I have to touch it? What kind of little finesse and nuances do I need to learn and pick up? And the best way to do that is not going to your favorite streamer. It's not going and watching a YouTube video. It is simply putting in the hours. You can go and ask any pro, hey, how do I get better at Rocket League? And most of them are going to give a very generic answer of just play more. And what they mean behind that is literally just play the game. You need to find a muscle memory and you need to get used to how this game actually plays with this physics engine. Now, even though it feels weird to say just play more, the best part about this game is because it is something new, you will become attached. You will want to play this game every waking hour. And part of the reason why is because not only are you playing a new game with new mechanics like nothing you've ever played before, but you're going to notice progression at a very rapid rate. You're going to start off and barely being able to hit the ball, if able to hit the ball at all, and then eventually it'll transition to being able to hit the ball, and you'll get your first goal, and you're going to constantly see linear progression, and the hours you're putting in are going to have a direct impact to you getting better. You're going to see yourself progress at a linear rate by just playing the game, and it's a really rewarding feeling. So, the number 1 tip, more than anything, just play the game. It sounds really silly, but trust me, just put in the hours. Number 2 is going to be to make sure to adjust your camera settings and to turn off camera shake. Now, these have changed a little bit over the years. My settings are showing on the screen right now. I've been using these for a very long time, but when you initially boot up the game, the FOV is super close, or the field of view. You don't get to see as much as the field. There's certain things like bloom and field of depth and stuff that you can turn off to make sure that it is easier to see. But overall, you need to make sure that you are a little bit further back from the camera, not too back. And there's better tutorials out there. I'll leave some links to those tutorials in the description of camera settings and what they mean and how to fine tune and adjust them. Obviously, it's a subjective taste. You want to find something that feels good to you. But the number 1 thing is the default FOV is, I think, 90. Bump that up to around 100 to 105 by default and then adjust from there. Adjusting your camera settings is going to give you a better feeling of where the ball is, as well as how to read it. The depth of view of when the ball is approaching you and when you should go for it, when you shouldn't go for it, is a lot easier to do. 2 major things with the camera. The closer it is, the easier it is going to be to notice the small touches, so for things like dribbling, while the wider field of view and the more back it is going to allow you to recognize where the ball is, where your teammates are, and give you more of a game sense in the approach to the game. So, couple things to keep in mind, but ultimately it is a subjective taste. Find what suits your needs best. Again, a link to a giant list of all the pros and all their camera settings can be found in the description. Make sure you check that out. The other thing I mentioned is going into your settings and turning off camera shake. By default, what camera shake does is it gives you a more immersive experience. So when you hit the ball or when there's a big impact or someone bumps you, your camera shakes and gives you a cool effect. For some people, they like leaving this on, but I'm going to tell you right now, you need to turn it off. You won't notice it going away, but if you end up turning it back on, it is a drastic difference. It makes just playing the game way more intrusive. You do not want this setting on. Turn it off immediately. Number 3 is going to be to fix your key bindings. This has gotten a recent update in the latest free-to-play update, but for more background information about it, when this game originally came out, all of your major mechanics like jumping, rolling in the air, flipping your car over, boosting, changing what your camera was focused on, whether it be the ball or what's in front of you, all of these buttons were on one hand on your right-hand side of your controller, and it made it very difficult when you got into the higher mechanics of the game. Things like flying through the air, as well as all the other things that you need to do to really elevate your level of play. With the free-to-play update, they did end up moving some of that over to your left side of your controller with the left bumper or your L1 button on some of the controllers. My recommendation is taking something along the lines of either your air roll and the ability to power slide or your drift key and moving those to the left bumper, or moving your boost over to the left bumper so you aren't having to jump, use your boost, and air roll all with your right thumb. It is very complicated, and for someone that's been playing this game for 4,000 plus hours, I still play on default, and I know it would make me better if I switched off of it, but I just have so much muscle memory by doing it this one certain way. I recommend if you can create this habit early by switching it away, it is going to make you a significantly better player. Number 4, and probably the most important. This relates back to number 1. Get used to going into free play during your queue times. This one's gonna be a little bit different, but because there's been such an influx of users, queue times are actually pretty short, especially when you first start playing the game. But there is certain times when the queues are a little bit longer. You want to turn your muscle memory into habit where anytime there is downtime where you're not playing in-game, make sure you go into free play. Free play is a training tool for you to use. If you go into the play online options under training and go into free play, it allows you to play the game with or without unlimited boost. And essentially what you want to do is you want to just get used to playing as fast as you possibly can and hitting the ball as hard as you can. Training yourself to be able to just react and play as quick as possible and make these small minute touches to have some sort of control. And you can mix it up. You can go for aerials, you can play it off the wall, you can hit it really hard downfield, you can go for a dribble. There's a lot of different things that you can do to help hone your skills on a day-to-day basis. It may not feel like much initially, but the more and more time that you get used to just making things awkward for yourself and being able to recover split second is going to make you significantly better as a player. This is something that most players will say they've spent more time in free play practicing the same mechanics. Say you want to go for an aerial and you don't know how to aerial. In between queue, look up a tutorial on YouTube and then just keep practicing it over and over and over again. If you're trying to get better at flicking the ball and putting powerful shots on target, this is the place to practice it in between cues. You just keep putting in the repetition in the practice until you get to the point where you're comfortable with it and you start doing it in game without even thinking about it. Free play is the absolute best tool for you getting better at this game, without a doubt. Other than free play, and this is kind of a side note, if you are working on a specific mechanic and you're trying to get better at a specific thing, there are things called custom training packs where people have made a code that you can put in and it'll load a series of shots or things that you need to do in order to help you practice on one specific option. If you guys have not already, if you go into the description, you can find my Discord. In my Discord, we actually have a section for training packs and other resources that people have recommended to help you get better. Highly recommend doing that. We'd love to have you as part of the community. The last one, and probably my most important here, is going to be play with the intent to get better, not to win. Learn to love 1v1s. This is more of a generalization or a mentality tip more than something specific to Rocket League. Many times people associate getting better by winning rather than seeing actual progression in their play. A lot of people actually shy away from 1v1s or the duel mode because in 1v1s there's no one else to blame for your mistakes but yourself. There is a lot of frustration that comes from messing up a kickoff and then getting scored on immediately, when what you should be focusing on is, why did I lose this kickoff? Did I approach it poorly? Did I come from the side instead of head on? What did I do wrong that made me lose this 50-50 or this challenge? Having the mentality while you're playing to saying, how can I get better? What can I personally do to make sure that we have a successful game? What things can I control? I can't control that my teammate is rotating poorly. I can't control that my teammate is kind of ball chasing. But what you can control is how you receive that information and how you react to it. If you have a ball chasing teammate, why not enable them to continue to ball chase and you play a little bit more passive? If they're whiffing shots, stop trusting them to go for the shot. Be in a position to recover for them if they have those mistakes. Do what you can to recognize how you can get better each and every game, and rather than focusing on winning, you're focusing on improving. The reason why I recommend learning to love 1v1s is it is a very punishing game mode. Like I said earlier, there is no one else to blame but yourself. So you are able to see at a very fine level the things that you do wrong and the things you do right. You can see a direct impact of the thing you did leading to a goal, whether it be forcing the other person to make the mistake or capitalizing on a mistake that they made. 1v1s are pretty much the sole place where we are finding more and more professional players coming from. People with very good mechanics, people who are super fast to the ball, people that know how to utilize space when it is given to them. 1v1s is without a doubt the best game mode to faster improve in this game than any other game mode. When you go into a lobby and have the opportunity to outplay people on your own individual level, it is only going to make your team better as well. I will say there is some things in the 1v1 game mode that do not translate over to 2v2 and 3v3, so keep an open mind with that. You may develop some habits in ones that are a little ball chasey or poor tendencies, but that's for an entirely different video. This has been Lawler, your inside source for all things Rocket League, and if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or like this kind of video, let me know in the comments below, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.